Welcome back to your news tonight. Well, the editor-in-chief of Hungary's biggest independent news site has been sacked, raising fears once again over media freedom in the country. Well, let's get that story from Alex in the Cube.
Well, Isabel, you were just hearing from Jack in Brussels how there was a real anger among many MEPs that Hungary's rule of law, discussion about media freedoms in the country weren't part of the conditions for this EU funding. And I can tell you that certainly kicked off a lot of discussion on Hungarian Twitter. And then this happened. We had the editor-in-chief of this. This is Index. If you're in Hungary, you'll know this. It's perhaps the best-known independent news site, certainly the most popular. Well, he was sacked. It was a surprise sacking. It led to journalists there to pen an open letter. Let me just bring you a short quote from that. Talking about the dismissal of Mr. Dul, who was the editor-in-chief, his dismissal is a clear interference, they say, in the composition of the editorial board. They go on to say it would make it impossible to carry on with independent work. Now, some background features for you here. It's worth saying that Mr. Dul had amended this. It's a barometer he had put on the website in 2018. Green means no interference in the independence of Index. Red means effectively it's over. He changed it in June to orange, meaning they were in danger. Just a month later, he's out the door. Now, the answer from the company was that he was stirring up internal tensions, driving away advertisers. But as you saw from the staff, and in fact Mr. Dul himself, very much presenting this as an erosion of media freedom in the country. But as I was saying at the beginning, this is all part of a much bigger, broader discussion about rights, freedoms and politics in Hungary. Let's speak to Daniel Hegedüs here, joining me now from Berlin. He's of the German Marshall Fund, but has been writing extensively about the situation in Hungary and these kind of developments. Daniel, thanks for joining us from Berlin. I just wanted to ask you, first of all, we've seen this developing situation now with Mr. Dul out of this publication. Could you put this in context for us? How significant is that?
Thank you for the opportunity and good evening. It's overly significant. As you already mentioned, index.hu is the country's largest independent news site. And the dismissal follows a months-long limbo of organizational restructuring efforts that aimed at the undermining of the site's independence. As you also mentioned, that Index operates with large autonomy of the editorial staff. The editorial team elects the editor-in-chief and decides about its own personal composition. Thus, the dismissal of the editor-in-chief impacts fundamentally the site's independence. Index is practically a conglomerate of companies, and although the site itself is owned by a foundation, the company managing the advertising services and thus practically the site's revenue, and another one that provides the logistical supports, were lately acquired by government-friendly investors who exerted pressure on the board of trustees of the foundation, which is composed by one single person, lately also to dismiss Mr. Dul. And the takeover of the independent media outlets often took place in Hungary through private acquisitions and are disguised as business moves, although they are politically motivated and the outlets end up in the hands of political cronies very often. Such a way were the country's regional print newspapers or the former market-leading daily Népszabadság, also acquired in the past by government-friendly investors. And the fortune of that investors very often originates from overpriced public tenders that were financed by financial resources of EU structural funds. And that way, through an organized machinery of public procurement, EU funds are often transformed to political resources in the hands of Hungary's governing party, Fidesz.
Daniel Hegedüs joining us there from Berlin. Thank you. Fascinating hearing that. As you saw, there's a much broader conversation here going on, Isabel, and people already looking ahead to the next election in Hungary, saying if this is going to be the media landscape, people should be concerned at this stage.
OK, sacking, sending shockwaves. Alex in the Cube, many thanks.